Have you ever been told that you should be looking ahead while you're reading your music? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about what that actually means and how to actually do it. My name is Josh Gu, and I'm taking my years of experience learning, teaching, and performing, and sharing all of my best clarinet and music tips so you can get more out of your practice, and most importantly, have fun. You can learn more about all of my many resources at quickstartclarinet.com, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to get notified when I post new videos. Before we get started with the video, I just want to really quickly make sure that you know about my free members area. You can go to quickstartclarinet.com/get started, make a login for that, and you'll have access to a nice, neatly organized little members area of all of my favorite handouts, some videos, and some things like that to help you be successful on your clarinet and music journey and get a really good start to the whole Quick Start Clarinet ecosystem, where you can see all of my sort of teaching philosophies and all of my favorite free material that's available for you. Now, when it comes to this idea of sort of looking ahead in your music, I think it's one of those things that is a good idea, but not the way it's described. If we think about just purely looking ahead, I think that's really quite unhelpful. And there is a way to sort of look ahead. It's not really actually looking ahead, but it's looking at the music from a little bit different perspective that is very, very helpful. So let me pull up some music. We have our trusty Rose 32 Etudes number 1. If you're a clarinetist, I'm sure you're familiar with this piece. And let me sort of describe the few ways of playing. So the first way is not looking ahead at all and just kind of playing a note at a time. So basically, the way we're looking, the way we're thinking is this note, then this note, then this note, then this note, and we're really just kind of playing a note at a time. And if you play this way, your teacher will probably say something like, oh, you should look ahead, you'll make mistakes, you won't know what's coming up next, and you'll run into a lot of problems, and it'll be very sort of mechanical playing, where you sort of get D, ta, 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 and it's very robotic, mechanical. I actually imagine how MIDI works and how computers read music is just one note at a time, and they play that note and play the pitch of the note and the duration of the note, just one note at a time. Now, once you start doing that and your teacher says, hey, you should look ahead, then you'll probably think, okay, I'm supposed to sort of be playing this thing, but I'll try like looking at this thing as I'm playing that. And then you'll make a bunch of mistakes and get really confused because you'll have no idea what you're supposed to be playing for that section because you're so busy looking ahead. And maybe there's some value to this, and at some point when you know the music well enough, you can pretty much have the first measure memorized and be thinking ahead and looking ahead to the second measure. But personally, no matter how well I've known a piece or how simple a piece is, I've very, very rarely, honestly probably have never actually visually looked a whole measure ahead. And I think that's kind of the misconception when we hear look ahead, is you think, okay, my eyes should actually be looking a whole measure ahead. And I don't think that's the case. Before I talk about how to actually look ahead, I do want to give maybe one caveat to that in the one situation where kind of looking ahead is valuable, and that's more so thinking ahead and knowing the music well enough that you know what's coming up. So maybe as you're playing this first C here, you know eventually that's going to get up to a high F, and you know that this G is the highest point of this sort of first phrase and first line of music. So that kind of thinking ahead of like knowing that I'm maybe leading up to the G, or knowing that the F is going to be sort of the tension point, and then this G resolves to the F, which resolves to the E. Knowing that that's coming up and knowing the piece well enough that you kind of know the structure of it and know the journey that you're taking the listener on, absolutely fantastic. And I think that kind of looking ahead is really valuable. I don't think that's looking ahead. I think that's knowing the music and thinking just a little bit about what's going to be coming up next. So that's the one way that looking ahead, it kind of, sort of in the traditional sense, actually makes sense to me. Now, what I actually think looking ahead means, and what we should actually be doing in music, is looking for groupings and sort of leading forward to the next thing. So when I say look ahead, or if I was thinking look ahead, I would be thinking more about moving the music ahead and moving the music forward. So it's not about where you're looking, it's about the direction and where you're aiming. So as I'm on this first C, I'm thinking about, okay, I played this C, and then I'm moving to E, and more importantly, that E is moving to G. So I'm not like looking at the G and staring at the G while I'm playing the C, but I do know that I'm going to play C, E leads to G, and then I can kind of see this little C, D, E bit here as a group leading to F. So I have bum, be dum, be da dee dum. So we have that kind of direction and forward momentum to it. But as I'm playing that, I'm still more or less looking at the C while I'm playing the C. Maybe I look kind of at the E and the G and kind of read them as a grouping together, and then I read the C, D, E as a grouping together, and then I get to F, and then maybe I'll read G, F, E as a grouping together, A, B, G, C, B, A, G. So it's much more about groupings rather than actually looking ahead. So you can think about this very akin to reading a language. So say we have a sentence in English. Say the sentence is something like, the cat ran. If we were to be looking ahead, then we'd be trying to read the while looking at cat. And you can see how sort of unintuitive that is. Maybe on some subconscious level our brain's doing that, but if I consciously look at cat and try to read the, it doesn't work at all. So instead, what we're doing is not reading one letter at a time and going t, h, whatever word that is. We're reading it in a grouping as a word. And I think reading music should work very much the same way. So we aren't reading one letter at a time, we aren't reading one note at a time, but we're seeing the groups and grouping them together in words. Now the trick is, music isn't quite as obvious as language, where we can see there's a space, so those letters must be grouped together. Music doesn't have that, where there's a clear space of what is actually grouped together or not. In music, we have to do the work to sort of figure out what those groupings are and do a little bit of analysis to see, where is this music actually leading? Now I'll give you one more quick tip on that. When it comes to looking at groupings, a big, vast majority of the time, it's going to be about upbeats moving forward to downbeats. So we start on a downbeat here. This E is an upbeat moving forward. C, D, E is an upbeat moving forward. G, F, E. Technically, G is on a beat, F is on a beat, so those are all downbeats. But there's kind of the bigger picture of the downbeat on beat 1 being more important. So 3, 4, 1, we're leading to 1. Beat 2 leads to 3. Beat 4 leads to 1. The anda of 2 leads to 3. And we can even get on a very small micro scale, the E leads to the and, the leads to the 4. Or even on a bigger scale, the E and leads to 4. Or even on a bigger scale, the E and 4 E and is leading to this 1 over here. So that is all different ways of looking at the groupings, and we can look at them at more micro and more macro levels. But again, almost always, and I don't think I've ever found an exception to this actually, the upbeat is leading forward to the next downbeat. So when we're looking for groupings and we're putting words together, we should put them together as upbeats leading forward to the next downbeat. So hopefully this helps to sort of clarify that idea of what it actually means to look ahead in your music. It's not literally looking, I think. I think it's a matter of seeing groups, kind of zooming out a little bit and putting those groups together, and then making sure that the music is always moving forward to the next thing. So I hope that this was helpful for you and helps you to clarify that a little bit. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Don't forget about my free members area that you can make a free account for at quickstartclarinet.com/getstarted to get my favorite free downloads and handouts and all of those good resources. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in another one. And last but not least, a huge heartfelt thank you to the Dennersons. This is like the Quick Start Clarinet family who supports the channel and helps to make everything that I do possible. If you would like to support the channel and get some awesome rewards in return where we can work one-on-one over video and you can have my full support moving forward on your clarinet journey, then go to quickstartclarinet.com/supporter.